Sanlam was established as a life insurance group in 1918 in Cape Town and has expanded its services to include short-term insurance, estate planning, loans, capital markets, and all forms of asset management.
And of course it owns a controlling position in Sanlam, so it's involved not only in its asset aggregation and life insurance business, but also in the short-term business through Sanlam. Very solid, slightly different corporate strategy, and has done well in the last decade.
Market cap 141.2 billion rand, price to earnings ratio 14, and a dividend yield here of 3.8%. Nice man, Ian Kirk, who's at the helm after a long history with the group, previously CEO of Sanlam. So
Yes.
no issue with their succession planning?
No issue. Went very smoothly from Johan to Ian. Safe pair of hands, continuation of the strategy. Soon after Ian came in, they announced the Sahan acquisition, which was significant. So after Sanlam buying Shriram in India, we now have Sahan. Strange how all these life insurers around the world have similar sounding names. So from a management perspective, very comfortable, very conservative. If you look at the assumptions...
Sahan gives Africa and Middle East exposure.
Correct, Northern Africa, correct. So if you look at the assumptions that all these insurers need to make, some are more conservative than others when it comes to the assumptions that are embedded in the embedded value. And Sanlam is the one that stands out as probably being the most conservative in that regard.
Follow-up question. They also did like a business called Foreign and Colonial or something out in Asia, and then there's something in Malaysia. How big are the foreign earnings as a contribution to the total business relative to South Africa?
I haven't seen pro forma after the Sahan
Just
transaction. So post that, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a quarter of the group value.
Well, that's good. That's the sort of perspective. So it's still got a big operation here.
Yes.
This is still
And
the
big
bulk of it.
aspirations in Africa. But Ian has made the point that they're going to go very, very slowly and they're not going to rush their rollout into
What
Africa.
about the JV with Patrice Motsepe's group, African Rainbow Capital? How does that fit in? Because that's where the previous CEO has ended up, Johan Verster.
Yes, which is interesting.
Patrice is still executive chairman of Sanlam, and they're working hand in hand with
it's like a
with
JV.
African Rainbow Capital. It's a very mutually beneficial relationship. They certainly aren't competing with one another. I asked Ian that question specifically in
And
Captain's
the
of
idea is
Industry.
to roll out Sanlam type products, say for example in the funeral insurance environment, into African Rainbow Capital's investments in, sort of soccer
And that's
clubs
important in
and
the
so
South African context. Having a BE empowered shareholder is very important when it comes to certain lines of business, dealing with regulators. So one can understand that there is maybe at some level, or there could be in future, competition. But for now, it seems like it's more mutually beneficial.
Let's have a look at the share chart, because a
Yes,
lot
let's
is
do that.
contained there. There was a bit of a disappointment with Sanlam's results recently, and so did that have much of an impact?
Yes,
correspondingly?
it was a trading update from Sanlam saying that the imminent results might be a little bit lower than people expecting. The underwrite margin being okay, but once again, that share portfolio you mentioned impacting them, which impacts short-term insurance more than long-term insurers. So that was a slight negative. And then also the bond deals, which I mentioned earlier.
Yes,
So when it comes to these
yes.
companies, there are always swings and roundabouts, which means that the business at the core is relatively stable, and the valuation of the share becomes probably a more important determinant than some other companies, some other sectors, whether you should buy or sell.
Hot or not?
I don't know. The thing worries me currently about the potential sovereign downgrade and all of this drama that's sort of knocking around. So I'm going to go not hot, a bit boring today.
As a result of the environment, not hot, JP?
Yeah, it's for me exactly where it should be in terms of the valuation, middle of the road. So either or, I would on the balance go hot as well.